Welcome to the Medium in the Middle podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, the medium in the middle. This podcast is going to walk you through my journey into mediumship and how I came to realize that I could communicate with souls that have passed over. My adventure started just over a year ago when unusual situations started happening to me. It wasn't until I really started to pay attention to them that it all started to come together. I wrote down everything that I was experiencing this past year in a little black book, and this podcast is going to be a recap of all of those memories leading up to where I am today in my mediumship journey. I will be releasing new episodes every Tuesday, and I recommend listening to the podcast in order, starting with episode 1, as my story will unfold more week by week. If you would like to stay connected with me, follow me on Instagram at mediuminthemiddle. Welcome to episode 41. How are you? Happy Tuesday, or any other day that you're listening to this episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. I'm really happy that you've found the podcast or that you came back. If you are new here, I would recommend subscribing. I release new episodes every Tuesday, and you can follow along in my mediumship journey. If you are an iTunes user, I would love a rating and a review. It really helps people find the podcast, and I would really appreciate it. So if you're an iTunes user, you just scroll down on your phone and you can click 5 stars and leave a little comment, and I read them all. So thank you so much to everyone who has already left a comment. I really appreciate it. And I know this is old news for you guys now, but my website is live. I'm so excited, and it's been incredible being able to connect with all the listeners, and I've been having a great response. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm overjoyed. I'm overwhelmed. It's been incredible. I did work my 1 week at the restaurant, and to be honest, if I wasn't already quitting, I would have had to have left because I just couldn't handle it. And the universe, of course, threw in a few more double checks to make sure that I really wanted to leave and that I was making the right choice. But I'm very happy to have left, and now I can be fully into my energy work. So if you are interested in booking a distance Reiki session with me, I offer 30 minutes or 60 minutes, or you can also do an Akashic record reading online. If you want more information about Akashic records, I have 2 podcast episodes on them, episode 34 and 36. So I really recommend listening to those 2 to give you more info. But I'll leave the link to the website in my description, and you can book directly online. I can do any of those services anywhere in the world. So this week I have a really exciting interview. So there is a healer in the valley that I connected with, and we had a really cool conversation that I want to share with you guys. So her name is Carrie, and she was actually the one that I did my distance Reiki test with. I talked about it in my distance Reiki episode that I did. But in the valley, she is really well known, and she's also a shaman, and I know nothing about shamanism, so I really wanted to dig deep and ask her about things that I don't know about that my listeners might be interested in. And also we can kind of compare how we communicate with spirit, how our journeys began, and it's a really cool conversation, so I'm excited for you to listen to it. So without further ado, we will jump right in. Please enjoy the episode. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited for this conversation. I have Carrie Suwal here with me. She is a healer in the valley as well. I'm excited to introduce you to her. Carrie is a meditation teacher. She's a shaman. She's an Akashic reader and a Reiki master. So please help me welcome Carrie to the podcast. Welcome, Carrie.
Thanks, Steph. Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here today and connect with you and connect with the lovely listeners.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this conversation and for the listeners to hear about you because there are some similarities in what we do. We both do Reiki and Akashic readings, and I'll talk about that. And there's also a lot of differences. So I really want to dive into shamanism because I don't know much about it, but I'm super interested in it. And I know my listeners want to know more as well.
Totally. Yeah. And I was just feeling like we both have similar gifts, and we both have different gifts in how we connect to spirit. And I think that's something really great to talk about today too, is just how there are thousands of different ways to connect to our intuition. And for some people, for me, shamanism is one of my most powerful tools for connecting to spirit. And for you, I know you're a really powerful medium, and that's just one thing that hasn't connected with me. And it's been a beautiful journey to just accept, like, okay, I have my own gifts. Stephanie has her own gifts. All of the other healers, we all connect in our own unique way. And if we can just accept and appreciate our own gifts, it's a really beautiful way to move forward with gratitude that, hey, spirit's connecting with us, energy's connecting with us. Can we just accept our gifts in the ways that they're showing up for us, and also appreciate the other healers and the other intuitive workers for their
Yeah,
gifts?
and I'd love to talk about that more, because I feel like, especially when we're all starting out, we want to find people who are similar to us or do the same things. But it is important to note that we all do have different gifts and different strengths. So, my listeners know my story, but they're always interested in hearing other people's stories. So, what was your journey into this healing work? Where did it all start for you?
Oh, yeah, great question. Actually, I was called in by a crystal, by a gemstone, and yeah, it was nuts. I'd never really felt energy. I'd heard about it. I'd, known some people who had talked about it. I'd never received Reiki or energy healing or gotten into it. I'd read one little book on chakras and the colors and, learning little bits and pieces here and there, but never truly experienced it and didn't fully know if I believed if it was real. And it was about maybe 15 years ago. I was on a girls' trip, and I wasn't living in the valley, but it was out here in the valley. And we went into a crystal and gem store, and, I see all these beautiful crystals. And then there's this one black, solid, but polished stone, and it was a black onyx. And I saw it and I thought, oh, like, that's not a pretty stone. Why would anyone want to buy
Mhm.
that? And I just picked it up with my fingers and put it down. And my fingers were so tingly and so warm. So they were having a reaction from the energy of this stone, and I could feel it. It was so palpable. My mind was just kind of blowing. And, as I had it in my hand,
Wow.
yeah, it was nuts. And so I did take the crystal, I had it in my hand. My hand got so warm that I put it in my back pocket of my jeans. And then my whole right butt cheek was on fire.
Mm.
Yeah, and it was that first experience for me of, wow, this is real. This is a felt sense. It's not just something that we can read about and believe. It's an experience. And when we have an experience, then it becomes our truth. And we know it's something that can't be taken away from us, whether science is ready to explain it to us or not, and whether they have the evidence or not. If we have an experience and it's real for us, then, it's real for us. It can't be taken away. And that was kind of my
Yeah,
call.
exactly.
Yeah, that was my call in to, okay, this is real. I can't deny it. And yeah, then I started taking my Reiki levels 1 through 3 and really playing with that manipulation of energy, with that intention of energy, and transforming the negative to the positive and neutralizing negative energy. And that was so beautiful. And I still love doing that work to this day. It's so beneficial. But I
Mhm.
found a bit of a gap in terms of, I wanted to receive more messages, more wisdom, and not just, the basic knowledge of the chakra system and how to apply it when I find imbalances over certain chakras. And I was called into shamanism. And someone had said to me, oh, you love animals? Like, I'm a vegan, I'm a animal activist in many ways, and I love nature. Obviously, here we are out in the mountains, we're so called to nature. And
Oh,
so,
yeah.
yeah,
For
those two things were kind of my hint of, like, okay, I think shamanism might be an interesting path for me. And I went and took introduction to shamanism through what's called the Faculty of Shamanic Studies. And that program was so powerful. I mean, it was just a 2-day intensive, and I learned so much. I met my power animal. I met my teacher guide. And from that point forward, I had an intimate connection to my higher self, my intuition through my guides. Anything I wanted to know, I could ask them. And that was what really resonated for me and what really connected for me on my journey.
Mm, that's really interesting because I don't know much about shamanism. So, could you maybe explain what it is or what a session looks like? Or is it using your intuition to add into all the other modalities that you do?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's both. Sometimes I have people who will book just a shamanic session, and sometimes I have people who just book a Reiki session or an Akashic record session, and we'll do some shamanic work in the beginning. So it's really great to integrate with any type of energy modality. But as a standalone, it's so powerful on its own as well. And the sessions are interesting because you are called by intuition and by spirit of how the session's going to go. And we always begin by opening a sacred space and closing a sacred space, which I love that piece of ritual because that's really also bringing in our conscious awareness and connecting it to the spirit realm by calling in compassionate helpers and spirits of the four directions. Something that's a little bit different in shamanism is we work with the upper world and the lower world. Here on the earth, we have the middle world. This is also the realm where,
Oh,
yeah, this is the realm where we'll find ghosts or spirits who are suffering. Um, Sometimes more mystical spirits are found here in the middle realm, like people will connect to elves and fairies and gnomes and unicorns, and they can dwell here on the earth plane as well. And then the lower world and the upper world are both it's not the traditional heaven and hell of Christianity and Catholicism, but
yeah.
yeah, it's
That's what I immediately would think of. So, maybe could you explain the difference?
totally, yeah, that's a big important one.
Yeah.
Yeah. In shamanism, the upper world is where we connect more so with human form guides. So angelic beings are found in the upper world, ascended masters are found in the upper world, archangels, and guides that are more in a human form. So whenever I go
Oh,
to the
okay. Gotcha.
yeah, whenever I journey to the upper world, I find it's more of a light kind of, I don't know, clouds and white, and it's a very soft, airy feeling. And then the lower world, we have more of an earthly energy. It's almost like we're journeying to the core of the earth and very nature infused, lots of plants. Sometimes you'll receive messages from plant spirits, lots of animal guides and helpers and spirits delivering messages in the lower realm. And I find it's very, I don't know what the word is, but infused with nature, so water and mountains, and just feels really earthy and a lot more solid. So it's two different planes, two different energies and fields, but they both connect to that same wisdom. They're just delivered in slightly different ways.
Mm. So, what caused you to move into shamanism? I'm super interested in kind of how you found that as your calling to move in that direction, like after you did your Reiki courses.
Yeah, for sure. One thing happened to me. I went to this Body Spirit Soul Expo in Calgary, and it was amazing. I just, I was like, wow, these are my people. This is awesome. Everyone's into different modalities, and I had such a great time connecting with all the different healers and healing work, and a lot of people were offering free work. And that evening, I went home and went to sleep, and it was my first real encounter with spirits. And I had full body paralysis, so I couldn't move. I was sweating because I was just a little bit nervous. I think part of me was ready
Yeah, it's a
for
little
this.
scary.
Yeah. It's like I was ready, but you're never really ready. Your mind has to,
Exactly.
yeah, your mind has to realize that you're safe and you're going to be okay in these experiences. And yeah, I just, for a matter of probably over 3 hours, I had hundreds of different spirits come forward and almost just show their face and disappear, like for a few seconds each. And most of the spirits were not from this dimension. So definitely um, something that I was totally unaware of in terms of existence. And
Mm.
yeah, and after that experience, I realized, how afraid I was, especially at nighttime. I was really afraid of energy and where it was going and what kinds of spirits I'm connecting to. And I realized that I need to engage in a deeper sense of knowledge so that I can work in this field safely and just knowing what I'm doing. So that was that push to me to, okay, Reiki has been beautiful and wonderful, but I need to understand more because my body is kind of pushing me to connect to spirit more deeply, but I'm not feeling safe and I'm not feeling good about it. So I'm holding myself back. And that was that
Mm.
push for me of, okay, what modalities should I try? And that's why that connection to nature and animals really turned me towards shamanism. I thought, yeah, that feels right to me. I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to give it a go. And from the very first moment, it just aligned, everything flowed, everything made sense, and it feels so strong to me, as if I've known it in many other lifetimes. And I wonder if that's similar for you in terms of mediumship. Does it flow for you? Is it in alignment with you? Is it easy? Do you feel like your soul kind of recognizes that?
Yeah, I actually like that you mentioned fear because I do feel like I've done this before. And when I realized that I could start communicating with souls, it just felt right. And I knew that I had to stand in this, but knowing that it's different and it's new and I didn't know much about it at the beginning, it is very scary. And I'm definitely still in a state of fear. It gets better and worse depending on situations. But I'd love for us to discuss like how we overcame our fear because for me, I kind of have to almost recognize that I'm in fear and not doing something because of fear and push myself through it in order for me to overcome and grow and learn. But how did you get over that fear of yours and kind of stepping into shamanism? Did it just disappear or did you work through it? Because I feel like a common theme with a lot of people is that the fear is there for everybody, but we have to push through it and we have to keep going because if we let it stop us, then we're just going to be stopped dead in our tracks on our path.
Yeah, and then
So what are your thoughts?
absolutely. It's like, and then where's the soul growth, right? We can stop it, we can sit
Mhm.
with that fear and we can hold it, but then our soul isn't developing, it's not growing. So I find it's always an opportunity for soul growth. And yeah, I've had so many moments of that, facing that fear and sitting with it. And sometimes you hold on to it, but it always comes down to a statement that I'll make to myself, which is, I don't want to be afraid anymore. And as soon as I make that statement, I
Mhm.
do everything in my power to understand that fear or overcome that fear or accept that fear. And, the biggest turning point for me was it was actually another shamanic course called Death, Dying, and Beyond. And that was where I felt the greatest fear because that's what I was really always afraid of was connecting to ghosts more than anything. I love to connect to angels and guides and ascended masters, but ghosts just scared the crap out of me. That was something I was
Oh, wow, really?
yeah, like
See, I would say I'm opposite. I'm okay with talking to souls, but when it's like a higher being, when
yeah.
I know like the wisdom that they hold, I'm like, I don't want to know.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, and I do wanna get into this chat with you too about souls because that workshop was focused more on helping souls ascend. So souls that are suffering and in shamanism, they're stuck on the middle plane or the earth plane. And when they ascend, they can go to the upper world or the lower world. It doesn't matter. They're both just a different type of frequency that really fits well with them. But in mediumship, you're connecting with spirits. And I'm curious if you're aware or if you get a sense or a feeling when you're connecting with them, if they're tuned in to love or God, we can say, or if they're in a state of fear. Because this course that I took was like, okay, we're actually just dealing with those spirits who are stuck in a state of fear and they haven't ascended, they haven't made their full journey, and they hung around on the earth plane for a reason. Maybe they
Mhm.
died in a car accident or they were younger or there was some trauma. Maybe some of their family members weren't ready to let them go and they kind of decided to stick around for them. And then what
Mhm.
happens is when they're trapped on this earth plane, they're not fully connected to that awareness of God or a higher self, we'll say. They're not re-emerging with the soul. And there's this state of loneliness, of separation, because they can't really connect with the human world, not fully. Through people
Mhm.
like you, like mediums and shamans, we can help a little bit in terms of connection if they want to bring information through, but they're coming from that state of fear because they're not connected back to their source. It's like they didn't make the full journey back home. And when spirits ascend, they're back home in that state of love. Often the wisdom that they have is coming from their heart. And I don't know, I can just feel it when a spirit's ascended. I almost see like light around them. And when they're not ascended, I see darkness around them. Or I get this feeling of sadness. They don't have a happy expression on their face. Yeah, so when you connect to
Mm.
spirits, do you get a sense of if they're happy and connected to love
Yeah.
or not?
So I've actually had two different experiences with this. I kind of talk about openly that I don't know everything about spirits, and I know that there are a lot of different thoughts about it. For someone once told me a sentence, and they said that souls stick around as long as they know someone on the earth. So, for example, if I'm a mother, I'll be around for as long as my kids are on earth, watching their life, supporting them. But then once I don't know anyone on earth anymore, then I'll go and move on.
Mm,
And that kind of made sense for me because when spirit does come through, they talk about things that happened before they died, and then they talk about things that happened after they died, kind of as an acknowledgement that they are around and they don't disappear. And of course, they want to be around for things that we're experiencing. So,
yeah,
as a mother who passed definitely wants to be like, I see my daughter's children. Like, I recognize that you now have children, and I'm still around for that. And I think that's beautiful. And that's why souls come back to give us messages.
yeah.
But another part of that I was explained was I had an experience I talk about in episode 18 where I was walking by the graveyard in Banff and I had a little soul following me around. And we ended up going inside, and he had passed 100 years ago. And he was a little boy, he was 5 years old. And I didn't know why he was there because, to my understanding, we shouldn't still be around after dying 100 years ago,
Yeah.
and we definitely wouldn't be hanging out in a graveyard. Like, you're going to be with your family or you're going to be somewhere, but you're not at your grave. So I was kind of like, why is this little boy here? And he didn't know. Like, he was a young soul, and I didn't know, so I wasn't really helpful. And it wasn't until I was speaking with Amanda, who will be coming on the podcast as well to discuss this. So this is actually a really great bridge. And I was telling her about this experience, how I found this little boy and his soul was still there and I didn't know why. And she explained to me that I needed to assist him in kind of going home and leaving this I guess you could say plane or this level that we're at, because he was stuck.
Mm,
And that was something that was completely new to me and I didn't get it. Like, she went back with me to the graveyard to assist me with it, but I had never encountered a soul that was kind of stuck.
yeah.
And I think something that is misleading is that movies make us seem like we're kind of a ghost until we cross over and we have unfinished business. And there's kind of this mystical element to it. We've all watched Casper and different
Yeah.
movies. But in my experience, it doesn't seem like we're waiting for unfinished business. It more seems like we're experiencing life with our loved ones until our loved ones aren't here anymore. And then once we're all together, then you go and you reincarnate however you do. And maybe you do soul review, or I don't know what all happens. But
Yeah.
so my only experience with kind of souls being stuck or not knowing what was going on was that one little boy in the graveyard. And I'm sure there's more souls like that, but it's not something that I have much experience with.
Totally. Yeah. I was going to say, as you're talking, I absolutely understand where you're coming from. And I actually contemplated this before coming on today because I realized the mediums in which we contact spirit are a little bit different. And
Mhm.
and I was curious, like, oh, I wonder, what level of spirit it is that you're usually connecting to. And I was shown these three levels, which really helped me understand. And the earth plane level is often like that little boy, they feel lost or they feel alone, uh, or they don't even
Yeah.
know they've passed. And that's that plane where there's definitely suffering, there's loneliness because they don't have connection, right? Even if you're
Mhm.
passed on and you want to be here for your family, but they're not aware that you're here and you stay, there's a great sense of loneliness because you want to love them, you want to hold them, and you want to be held, but that can't happen. And then there's another level, which is the natural progression, which is where most souls do go on their journey after you pass right away. You do go through a little bit of, we'll say, detoxification or healing of this lifetime. And then you end up in this plane. And how they were showing me the plane was almost at the level of the atmosphere, so higher above the earth, and kind of like a middle point, because then we have a third point higher up. And this middle point is you're still here for your family. You're still here to watch over them and connect with them. And you're also connected to the level of God, to that level of love of your higher self and your truth. And at this level, those spirits can connect to all spirits. So, really stepping closer
Mm.
to that sense of oneness, but still holding some of that individuality, that identity from that previous lifetime. And then, if they're ready, or when they're ready and wanting to, then they go up to that third level, which is even closer to that source of God, and letting go of that identity more greatly, more deeply, and connecting closer to that truth of oneness. And eventually just re-emerging with that oneness, where there is no sense of identity or differentiation between each soul or person. We just return to that space of awareness. And of course, we can always come back into another form through reincarnation. But
Mm.
the beautiful thing is, this oneness, or this connection to God or love, is always accessible, no matter what level we're at. It's just that the level that's furthest away is that one where a spirit gets trapped kind of on the earth plane, because they're stuck in
Yeah.
between. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to know your opinion because I recently did my Akashic Records course, and you also do this as well. So would you say that when we're connecting with the Akasha, is that third level? Um, or what do
I
you
think so. Yeah,
think of
that's a
that?
great question, because we get into that field of Akasha, and it's not necessarily like, yes, we have teachers, masters, and loved ones, and the Lord is the Akashic Records, but they're not necessarily coming forward and saying, "Hey, I'm your teacher. Hey, I'm your master. Hey, I'm your loved one." It's like all in that
Mhm.
field of Akasha, which is that field of love. And to me, that feels very close to that source of oneness. No one has an ego where they're like, "I want to deliver this message and it's coming from me." It's just all that divine information. So to me, that feels definitely closest to that God and that source, I think, than any of the other
Yeah.
levels.
And in the course, they did explain that because people were kind of asking, well, if it is our masters, teachers, and loved ones, why don't they say, hey, this is Grandpa John delivering this message? Or, hey, this is the teacher teaching you patience delivering this message. And that makes sense, is that they don't step forward because it's egoless. And the point is the message. The point isn't who it's from.
Yeah.
And a big focus of the course was kind of releasing needing to know who's it from and knowing that you just need to know that information. And then if you wanted to connect with Grandpa John, you should go talk to a medium, not go into your Akasha asking for guidance.
Yes, absolutely. And I feel that same way about shamanism and connecting to our, we'll say, like, say you meet your power animal for the first time. And at that time, I thought, oh, this is my power animal. It's this being that's separate from me. But later on, you learn to understand that it's all you. And I thought,
Mhm.
wow, did I create this being or this animal or this teacher? But it's just a reflection of your higher self. And what is your higher self? It's that connection which is in the space of oneness and all. So, whatever guides or even spirits we meet, even people that we meet, they are us and we are them. And it's obviously so easy to feel that disconnect in this identity of our world, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, that oneness is within all. So, yeah, we can get into the labels and restrictions, but I think that with spirit, the messages come through in the way that they're meant to. And even if, say a turtle shows up for someone, it doesn't mean, oh, your guide is a turtle and it's this spirit that's going to show you this way. I think it means, turtle has a message for you, and maybe at that time that's for you to slow down. Maybe at this time it's for you to protect yourself, seeing the shell and really pulling the symbolism. Shamanism really works in the field of symbolism, which I love, because we can get so many messages just from one image or one word that comes through. We really kind of have to sit and contemplate, what is this meaning? Whereas with mediumship, with the Akashic Records, it's this really clear, sometimes almost like you're reading a book, you can get a really clear
Mhm.
statement or message. But with shamanism, yeah, it's an imagery, and then that imagery will make us contemplate, wow, what does this mean for me? It just multifaceted. There's lots of levels in terms of the information that comes through. So it's a very different type of a session compared to any other type of reading, in that the messages will be symbolic. So the healer or the facilitator, which would be me or somebody else giving a session, would talk about what's coming up. We would share our symbolic breakdown, but we would also ask the person receiving what their symbolic breakdown is. So there's always two messages in each thing, which is really beautiful. And each message works on a different layer of consciousness that person's ready for healing and understanding. And it's, of course, always coming from our higher self. Even though we're breaking it down and we're traveling to the upper world and we're traveling to the lower world and we're talking to different types of spirits, we're still pulling from the same source, from the same place, right? It's all coming from that universal love, that universal energy that we're always accessing.
It's interesting that you bring up that example, because I actually had someone send me a message on Instagram saying, "Hey, Steph, like I've been seeing spiders everywhere and I can't figure out what the meaning is. And I've tried to look it up and no meaning is really resonating with me. They all seem kind of opposite." And she was asking me like what the meaning could be. And I was honest and I said, to be honest, I have no idea. I would try to maybe think of a connection that you have to spiders and what's the meaning to you specifically, instead of looking up a general meaning. But if someone was kind of having that experience, would it be a good idea for them to go see a shaman so that they could work through that together and kind of discover the meaning? Or is it up to you to figure out like why that's showing up to you as a symbol?
Absolutely. Both of what you said is correct, because what I would do is guide them exactly in the way that you did, to ask them, well, what does a spider mean to you? And if they say, I have no idea, well, I'll say, okay, are you afraid of spiders? Do you like spiders? What do you know about spiders? And maybe they'll say, oh, I noticed their web and the perfection of their web and how if it's broken, they rebuild it right away. Or I notice how their sac gets really engorged when it's full of eggs. Like everyone has their own knowledge on different
Perspective.
things
Yeah.
through their experiences. And sometimes they just need to be guided and asked the proper questions to get to that, and see like, oh yeah, spider to me is about connection. Or, oh yeah, spider to me is about overcoming your fear. Like it will always be a different message for each person. And shamanism is a great way for me to help them uncover that message, but also I can help to uncover it with them.
So it's kind of like you're in this together. It's not you just telling them the information. Does your like client also has to come to that realization on their own without you telling them, or is it a combined effort?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a combined effort. Sometimes I'll have people who, I'll share these messages of things coming through and kind of just like hear crickets in the background, like nothing's happening. And they're just like, oh, I don't know. And I just understand, I kind of step back and I know within myself that they don't know at this moment because maybe they have some blocks or blockages. They're not ready for this message. And I have to trust. I have to totally let go of my ego that wants to be right and receive this confirmation that what I'm giving them is accurate and it's not my imagination, and trust that this is the message. I'm seeing it. I know it's the truth. And it will be up to them to interpret it in their own time when they're ready for it. And that does happen sometimes. And we have to be okay with that. That's what really makes this work, I think, humbling, is that we're not always going to receive the acceptance right off the bat. Some people aren't ready for these big, profound messages. And maybe it's not that they're not ready, but they're not ready to create the change. So consciously, they're not ready to accept the message, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And that kind of segues into what I wanted to share with you. I guess I never shared. I had a distance Reiki session with you. So my experience with distance Reiki has kind of been hot and cold, where at first I didn't really understand it. And then I didn't want to do it because I didn't understand it. And then I wanted to try it. And then it started to work. And I was seeing the results that you would get in a normal session with someone face to face. The fear comes in and you don't want to do it anymore. So when I was in my research phase, when I was practicing, I was thinking, you know what? I need to have a session with someone that I trust and experience distance Reiki for myself, because I've always been practicing on other people. And I booked a session with you. And I remember afterwards, I was kind of like mind blown. I remember walking downstairs and being like, wow, like Carrie's good. Like I know people say Carrie's good and everyone told me, but it was this kind of aha moment for me where I understood oneness in the way that you've been explaining it through this episode today. And it was really this big moment for me where through an experience with you, I was able to understand how distance worked. And that was kind of the message that I needed in that moment to get me to do it. So, what was your kind of experience with getting to know oneness? Because for me, it took me a while to kind of like get it. But the way that you talk about it, I really admire how kind of like confident you are in it. So, was it through your experiences or is that kind of your strength, or what would you say about that?
Oh man, it was my biggest weakness for the longest time, feeling
Oh,
alone. Yeah.
wow. I wasn't expecting
Yeah,
that.
I find that's, like, where we find our greatest gifts is where our greatest challenges are, and, yeah, I struggled with
Mhm.
depression, anxiety, feeling alone, not feeling good enough, not knowing my purpose for so many years, and it will still come in waves. Sometimes I'll get these waves of, like, anxiety and past triggers coming through from my ego, and it was one day I was sitting in the forest, and this was after my Reiki level 3 attunement, which is really working on breaking down those barriers and letting us connect to spirit more deeply and feeling that connection. And I was sitting in the woods and I was having one of those funky days, and it was this feeling of I don't feel alone anymore. And I
Yeah.
know that that feeling was always there, but my mind had always blocked it because I believed it not to be true for so long that as soon as I started practicing meditation and softening my thoughts, suddenly I could tune into that field of knowingness that oh, yeah, I'm not alone. Especially sitting in nature is the easiest, right? Because it's such a beautiful, powerful, positive energy that you feel totally supported, right? Like Mother Nature's just holding you and cradling you. And that was that moment for me. So now, if ever I have those days, and I do, they come up sometimes of extreme stress or even anxiety, I just check in and I say to myself, what is the truth? And I take that moment, it's just one breath, and I feel it within me that this is just an experience. Everything on this planet is just an experience. My emotions, my thoughts, my struggles, just an experience. And at the deepest level of truth is the oneness. That's what I feel. And, really through meditation, I've been able to create a strong connection to that feeling. So I solidified it. So I'm never letting it go, and I'll never let it go because I know it's here
Yeah.
now. Yeah, and I know where to look for it. It's within. It's not outside of me. It's not through a book. It's just letting go of beliefs to see what's there, and that oneness is there at that deepest level. When we let go of all we've come to know and understand, then we can experience what actually is. And for me, that's what it was.
Yeah. I love that definition that you gave because it really makes sense for me. I'm a very practical thinker and I need to kind of understand things before I can support things. And even before hearing you say all that through my experience with you and doing the distance Reiki, I got that vibe of how you just explained oneness, and it really made me feel more comfortable with it. So I wanted to definitely thank you for that because it made me feel comfortable in knowing that we are supported and that we're not alone and that we can connect with others because we all are connected. And you had mentioned meditations, and I know that you record meditations and you have a lot of offerings, and I would love to introduce that to the listeners. So, what would you like our listeners to know? Like, where can they find you? What offerings do you have? I want to
Oh,
tell them everything.
yeah, great. Thanks, Steph. Yeah, you can find me on the Insight Timer app, which is a free app. I think they have over 15 million people on it right now, which is pretty incredible. And I have just under 40 free guided meditations you can listen to at any time for relaxation, for connection to intuition. I have some talks on there as well. And it's also a great platform for courses. So I do have some courses on building your intuition. I have a 30-day law of attraction course. And again, in all of my courses and teachings, I do love to come into that field of oneness and that field of love, similar to that field of Akasha that we're talking about. And yeah, check me out there. Just type in my name, Carrie Suwal, and everything I have will come up and you can check it out.
Perfect. And I will leave all of Carrie's links in the show notes so you can connect with her on her website or on Instagram as well. So thank you so much, Carrie, for coming on. This was an amazing conversation. I know that I learned a lot, and I'm excited for the listeners to kind of hear another perspective and hear experiences from another healer, because someone will connect with your story just as people have connected with my story. So I'm excited for them to contact you, and thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Steph. It was so great to connect with you.
So I hope you enjoyed that conversation and you learned something from Carrie. I never want my experience and the information that I share to just be one-sided. So I try to share when I meet cool people, bring them on the podcast and let them share their stories and their point of views and their experiences, because you might find a different connection with that. So I hope that you really enjoyed that conversation, because it was super interesting. And I love how supportive all the different healers are in the valley. We all lift each other up. We all support each other. There's all love, and it's just an incredible space to be in. So, as I mentioned, I will leave all of Carrie's links down below if you're interested in getting in contact with her. I will leave all of my links down below if you want to connect on Instagram, Facebook, the website, themediuminthemiddle.com. It'll all be in the show notes. And I got a funny message this week on Instagram. Every week at the end of the show, I always say, "See you guys next Tuesday," thinking that I'm witty because I don't see you. You just hear me. And she wrote that she thought it was funny that I always say, "See you next Tuesday" at the end of every episode. And I was like, haha, like someone finally got my joke. It's like, "See you next Tuesday," but I don't see you, I just hear you. Okay, so I thought that was funny. So again, I'm going to end this episode by saying, see you next Tuesday when I release a new episode. I will be recording that episode fully in the new apartment. I recorded a little bit here for this episode, but next week's will be fully recorded in the new apartment. I have lots of exciting things to bring to you. So thank you for listening, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys.